Hello, I just wanted to do a quick tutorial on how to make glowy stuff in Photoshop, like this glowy thing over here. I have it on an example layer, but I will be making another one over to the side. And this is sort of a tutorial on how to use gradient maps for making magic VFX and being able to change the color of them. So if I go into this, the color is mostly determined by this gradient map, which can be changed pretty easily to other presets or other custom colors that I want to make, and it's really easy to do that, and I can go in and kind of like modify the effect to look differently or have, you know, different attributes, so it's nice and non-destructive. I like that about Photoshop's gradient maps. Okay, anyway, time to start this up. So I'm gonna make a new group, and in the group I'm just gonna grab a solid color layer, make it pure black, and then set it to linear dodge. Screen also works. Linear dodge, or just, you know, your basic add does give you more intense results, so use whatever is right for the piece you're making. I guess you can kind of play around and see what it does. Alright, now I'm going to make a clipping mask that's a transparent layer, and I'm just going to start painting white in there. I'm going to sketch out the shape of kind of an effect that I want to make. Maybe just like an orb that's kind of on fire. Let's do that. That's about right. I'm going to fill this in with white. And kind of blur out my sketch a little bit, but I'm going to go in with the smudge tool, and this smudge tool is just a hard round brush. You can see I select this guy, but I've put all the hardness all the way up. I think it just makes nice stylized smoke if you play around with it with like some soft gradients and just kind of drag pieces to and fro. You have to be a little bit strategic about the way you move stuff around, because it can get kind of messy pretty quickly, especially if you have like strokes overlapping other strokes. It kind of gets a little bit gross, so I tend to try to make sure all of my little flowy areas are going to go in the same direction. So there's not a lot of like weird overlap, and if I want some crisscrossing effects, like I have like lots of crisscrossing here, I'll make a new layer over top. I'm just gonna drag this down a little bit. Here we go. Blur that out a smidge. Sort of grab some extra little bits here. Gonna grab the eraser and eat into some of these parts. To add more translucency. Sometimes it's actually easier to work in the grayscale stuff with this set to screen, just because the add mode does kind of overexpose some areas, I guess. So you'll see a lot of the level gradation in when this layer is set to screen that you wouldn't in add mode. And then I can always just switch it to add mode at the end if I want the end effect to be more intense. Cool. That looks like a fiery thing. I'm gonna do another layer and sketch out some ideas for an overlapping bit of wispiness. That would be impossible to do on that same layer. And I'll try that. This might just be too busy and kind of eating up the shape a little bit too much. But we can fix that because I do like this kind of curve a lot. Alright, that's looking cool. Just gonna add a little bit more of a white hot center there. I kind of like this like intricate swirly bit that I had down on this one, so maybe I'll do something like that on this as well. So I will make another layer, and if you want to cut into this, you can just paint in black because you're set to add. It will just erase all of the stuff, all the information from that clipping layer in a non-destructive way, obviously. So maybe I want to just do like a swirly kind of pattern like that. Maybe. I'm going to switch to white and start kind of bringing out some of the edges that I like and want to keep, or I want to make more intense, like camping. Feel the need to like sort of define all these wisps and how they're coming together. So gonna add little like sparky, kind of glinty little things. There we go. I think that's, maybe I'll add some more like loose wisps down here. It's really easy to get lost in sort of just noodling these things forever, but I'll leave it at that. And then I will add another clipping layer, but it will be a gradient map layer. I didn't go over how to make a clipping map. You just, on a layer that is just a normal layer, you can just hold the Alt key and hover in between, and then this little arrow will come up and it'll be like, click there, and it'll turn it into a clipping map. Clipping mask layer thing. Okay. We could do a fiery one for this one. These are just a couple gradient maps that I have saved. Basically, I'll just delete these and show you exactly what it's doing. Gradient maps, if you're unfamiliar, they just take the value information and plot the value information on this gradient, and then it'll just assign all the colors that are on this gradient to your layer or combination of layers. In this case, there's like a lot of clipping masks involved, and then that will determine the colors of what's there. So if we have green is assigned to the darkest values and fading to red at the brightest values, you can kind of see all the things that were black in that layer, though we didn't really see them as black because this was set to add. They're now green and then fading to red at the highest. So we want to actually keep this one at black because we want this to not overpower the entire image. And then we want to add new colors to this slider, potentially fade between a bunch of colors, like we could do, blue to red. If you want like a good effect, you would probably just go darker colors to lighter colors in a way that's like, harmonious, like different blue families that are going to go together nicely and fade together nicely. Blue that turns into green is also nice. So you can play around with this stuff, and it depends on the effect you want. I think since I did the blue one there, I'll do a warm one here. Let's do a fire one, but I want this a little bit more like red. So I will actually I will set this back to add, so this looks more intense. But oh, this is what it is normal, so you can kind of see what's going on before we set it to add. There we go. That's really intense and nice. Kind of a dark red, and I want it to like have a lot of space that is that dark red before we go into orange. Should I make this colder, warmer? I like a colder red. That's fun. It's sort of nice to go from cold to warm. That's cool. Now I kind of feel like I don't want these hot yellow bits at the top. I want those to stay down here. So when I get out of that, I'm going to go in between my gradient map and my white layers, and I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to set it to darken, because I just want to darken these to like a value that's only going to be giving me that sort of like red to orange. This value's too dark. Yeah, that value works. Because if I was going to go over this with black, it would just fade everything out and I would lose a lot of information. I don't want to lose all of this shape information. So like if I did black, it would kind of like just start eating away everything, instead of just bringing down the hottest spots. So I'm going to do that and just kind of like there. That's nice. And I'll feed them out a little bit darker. Way at the top. Okay, cool. Yeah, so now we have like a nice hot spot down there. And this is our sort of focal point area. And now I would typically like make another add layer to do some bloom sort of effects around this, that kind of make the effect more intense, but also like just affect more of the background, as if this was like really giving off a lot of light. You could also do this with like overlay layers if things are looking too bright and light and washed out. But overlay layers are a little bit harder to work with just because you're going to be adding darkness to it as well, and that's going to affect the background, and it's kind of additive is just sort of nicer to stick to when you're working with additive effects, because yeah, unless you have a really light background that you need to darken. But yeah, there we are. The last thing is a chromatic aberration is always nice on VFX, just because especially additive VFX, because the look of them is just like, you know, this is light that is warping and being weird and funky and magical. So what have I done? Oh, this is overlay, that's why. So you can copy the whole layer, paste it. Did that not work? What's going on? My hotkeys aren't working. I don't know why. So we'll go here. Copy merged. Paste. There, now it's working. I'm going to just delete this part of the image because we already have a chromatic or aberration on that. Click on this, turn off like one of the channels. And I want it to be more like offset at the tail than at the center, because I imagine there's more movement up at the tail. So let me maybe just liquefy this. And that should do it. Should give us, yeah, a fair bit of aberration up here, a little bit down here. You can see there's a seam in the image. You can just erase that. And that's it. That's how you paint glowy stuff. I hope that was helpful.